But very clearly, we would not have paid corporations a subsidy for their dividends and their CEO bonuses. We would not keep paying people not to work now that there is 1 million vacant jobs in Canada. We would not have given $500 million to the We Charity. The list of waste and corruption goes on, and we'd have none of it.
That completes this until after. You've got about a minute left of questions after the questions by members. Statements by members. Déclaration des députés. Mississauga, Malton.
Mr. Speaker, it's an honor to rise in this House as a newly elected Member of Parliament for Mississauga Malton. I rise today with a deep appreciation because my presence in this chamber is not very likely. My father was born in a mud house, Mr. Speaker, in a village in Punjab, India. He grew up taking odd jobs around the village to make ends meet, including collecting dry grass from swamps nearby so that they could be burned during the winters to keep his family warm. He didn't wear shoes to school, Mr. Speaker, because he couldn't afford them, so that when the sun had baked the grounds in the mornings, he would walk along the shade provided by treetops and house alleys. As he grew older and circumstances became unbearable, he charted a path to this great country because he had larger dreams for his children. He became a plumber and eventually started a business. One of his dreams was that his children would be educated because he never had that chance. It's with pride, Mr. Speaker, that my father tells his friends that one of his sons went to Harvard Law School, and that same son stands here before you today. I hope that my father has proven right the adage that you give an immigrant an ounce and he'll give you back a pound. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary Signal Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and congratulations on your appointment. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank my volunteers who helped me get elected for a third time in Calgary Signal Hill. And that's, obviously, after having served 2 terms in the provincial legislature, 5 elections, that's a tremendous accomplishment, and I appreciate my constituents' support. Whether it was Joanne who organized my campaign, whether it was Nancy who led our phoning efforts, or Jeffrey and Cal who showed up every day to go door knocking with me in this unnecessary election, I am incredibly thankful. Now, the one thing this unnecessary election did tell me, though, is it gave me the opportunity to talk to thousands of my constituents, and it confirmed how unhappy my constituents are with this government that can't get anything done, and we're here as Conservatives to hold this government to account. Thank you.
The honourable member for Windsor-Tecumseh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to pay tribute to a Canadian music radio legend, Rosalie Trombley, who passed away this week at the age of 82. As music director at CKLW in Windsor, Rosalie was the girl with the golden ear, who helped launch countless careers, including Bob Seger, Gordon Lightfoot, Aerosmith, and the Guess Who. She played Canadian records before Canadian content. As a single mom, Rosalie worked switchboard before rising to become the most important music director in America, commanding a signal that reached 3 million listeners in the US and Canada. In a business dominated by men, she was a trailblazer. In 2016, Rosalie's lifetime contribution to Canadian music was recognized with a Juno Award, and each year a Canadian female broadcaster is presented with the Rosalie Award. In '73, Bob Seger wrote a song in tribute called Rosalie, which goes, "She's got the power, got the tower, Rosalie." Mr. Speaker, Rosalie Trombley was a pioneer who moved millions of people, broke barriers, and changed music forever. Thank you.
The honourable member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Mr. Speaker, November 25th marked the beginning of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. During these 16 days, I think of my friend Lisa Marie Young, who tragically went missing in 2002. A member of the Cloquiet First Nation, she was only 21 when she disappeared. Lisa Marie will always be remembered for the joy she brought to everyone around her. I'm truly sorry her mother, Marlene Joanne Martin, didn't get the answers she deserved before her passing in 2017. I want to acknowledge the continued perseverance of Lisa Marie's family and friends to find answers, her Aunt Carol Frank and friend Cindy. I ask the government to immediately implement the calls to justice of the inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and 2 LGBTQIA+ people to work to build communities where everyone is safe from gender-based violence. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Sherbrooke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In May 2020, we committed to making necessary repairs so that our reservists could continue to train in Sherbrooke, and we kept our word. My fellow citizens who have gone down Belvedere Street will have noticed several workers in front of the Colonel Gaetan Côté Armory. Urgent repairs did start, as planned, on October 18th. We will continue to ensure the sustainability of the Belvedere Armory, and the second phase will start in 2022. I want to highlight the resiliency of our reservists who relocated in temporary facilities. My colleague, the Minister for Agriculture, as well as myself, have had the opportunity to visit it on October 20th. I'm very proud of what we have done to ensure the future of our facilities in Sherbrooke.
The honourable member for Miramichi Grand Lake.
Mr. Speaker, I stand today with the arduous task of giving words sufficient to honour the life of a friend, a son, and a brother to many, Jonathan Hennessy. John did not only stand out, he stood alone. In a world increasingly devoid of character, he provided a stark contrast in a manner not beyond comparison to the Irish wit of James Joyce or Oscar Wilde, and in that vein, he was beloved by all who knew him. Had he chosen to harness his personality for a living, there is no doubt he would have won an Oscar, an Emmy, or ended up on the New York bestsellers list. The unfortunate cause of a personality as big as John's is that the silence he leaves behind is deafening. To my fellow members and my constituents at home, always remember to take an extra moment to enjoy your family and friends. In closing, Mr. Speaker, I would like to express my deepest condolences to his mother, Winnie, and we thank her for sharing the gift of her son, Jonathan, with us. May he rest in peace.
L'honorable député de Laval-les-Îles.
Monsieur le Président, j'aimerais remercier.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my family and my team, as well as all the volunteers and residents of Laval-les-Îles who honored me and chose me to represent them at the House of Commons for a third mandate. Thank you for your trust. Congratulations to all of my colleagues, re-elected, and those who have been newly elected. I am very pleased to be here in person, to work with my peers, to move Canada forward, to win the fight with COVID-19 and see the end of it, get the economy moving, and fight climate change.
I would like to express my tremendous gratitude towards the residents of Laval-les-Îles for contributing effectively to the fight against COVID-19 by getting vaccinated at impressive levels. Chacun de nous devra faire.
Every one of us will have to do their part to ensure a better and safer future for our children and future generations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Malpeque.
Go.
Mr. Speaker, today I would like to express my ongoing support for the Prince Edward Island potato industry. Potatoes are a primary crop on Prince Edward Island and continue to be the largest potato-producing province in Canada. The potato industry is worth over $1 billion annually to our island economy. The recent announcement that fresh and seed potatoes cannot be exported to the U.S. is a very serious concern. As Canadians, however, we are no strangers to challenges. In the past, we overcome the PVYN virus, mad cow disease, and more recently, the heroic pan-Canadian response to the wildfires and floods in BC. This is not only a PEI issue. An imbalanced supply of potatoes in Canada will create domestic market volatility that will affect farms across this country, reducing farm income and price. It's a Canadian issue. I've had daily discussions with the Agriculture Minister Bibeau, and I thank her for her efforts. My colleagues, the Premier of PEI, former MP Wayne Easter, PEI Potato Board, and several potato farmers. We must continue to work diligently on this file to ensure restrictions are lifted as quickly as possible.
I want to, and I know this is a new member, but we cannot refer to the name of a member in the House. So you did use the name of the ministers. You can't do that. The honourable member for Saskatoon Grasswood.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Saskatoon arts and drama community has lost a treasure in the passing of Henry Wolfe. Wolfe was an actor, he was a director, a writer, and a teacher. His work could be seen on the big stage, on television, and the big screen. Wolfe moved to Canada in 1978 to teach drama and work in theatre. He was a mentor to a new generation of artists. He was beloved by his students. In fact, one student, Jeff Rogstad, said his fingerprint is all over the theatre community in Saskatoon. Wolfe served as the artistic director of Shakespeare on the Saskatchewan Festival for a decade. His portrait of Wolfe in the role of Shylock hangs outside the theatre, bearing his name at the University of Saskatchewan Drama Department. Wolfe's legacy is the culture he nurtured, inspired, and cultivated throughout his remarkable life. And as one student said, Mr. Speaker, it's hard to be sad today because we had so much fun.
The honourable member for Whitby.
Mr. Speaker, as I rise in the House for the first time in the 44th Parliament, I find myself filled with excitement to be back in Ottawa and gratitude for the people of Whitby who have once again given me the honour of representing them here in this House. There is no doubt the nation's business has never been more important as we face numerous challenges, including making life more affordable, finishing the fight against COVID-19, ensuring a robust economic recovery, and combating climate change with ever-increasing urgency. While the pandemic has brought serious hardships and far-reaching impacts on our way of life, it has also presented us with the opportunity to build back in a way that addresses long-standing inequities, develops greater resiliency, and transitions us to a more sustainable economy. Regardless of political stripe, Mr. Speaker, it is my sincere belief that Canadians gave all of the members of this House a strong mandate to make real progress on the priorities that matter to Canadians. And I look forward to working with all parliamentarians to make it happen. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
Last week, Sikhs across the world celebrated Gurpurab, or the birth of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, who taught the lessons of remembering God, earning an honest living, and sharing with others. To celebrate Gurpurab, Red FM and the Dashmish Culture Centre, under the leadership of President Amanpreet Singh Gill and the entire executive committee, raised over $700,000 in one day from Sangat for the Mata Sahib Kaur Ji Women and Children's Transitional Housing. Congratulations to everyone on this amazing initiative. It was an extra special Gurpurab, Mr. Speaker, as we saw the announcement of the repeal of 3 farm bills in India. Our Kisan farmers, brothers, sisters, and respected elders in India have been peacefully protesting over the last year in the cold streets and even faced attacks. But they persevered through their dedication. We thank each and every one of them for their incredible sacrifices and pray for their good health, success, and prosperity. Kisan Majdoor Ekta.
L'honorable député de Mégantic-L'Érable.
Monsieur le Président, aujourd'hui je...
Mr. Speaker, today I want to share with my colleagues my sorrow for a great person who recently passed away. The Honorable Raymond Setlakwe, former senator, son of an immigrant who fled from the genocide in Armenia to Canada to raise a family and make it prosper. Monsieur Raymond, as many like to call him, was unfailingly generous. A successful businessman who collected political meetings like some people collect hockey cards. For me, he was more than a mentor. He gave me my first real chance to enter politics by supporting me when I tried to get elected in 1998. It must be said that at the time, I was running under the banner of the Quebec Liberal Party. Raymond would never have supported another party. I think I almost lost him once in 2015 when I told him I'd be running for the Conservative Party. I share with all of you, dear colleagues, some words he said to me shortly before his death. In politics, we have opponents, not enemies. I would like to thank him for allowing me to realize my dream. I hope that up there he will meet all the great politicians in history he never had a chance to meet.
The Honourable Member for Cowichan-Mellahut, Langford.
Mr. Speaker, my riding is home to some of the most awe-inspiring ancient old-growth forests on southern Vancouver Island. The majestic trees in these forests can defy imagination and immediately command your attention with their enormous presence. Many of them were already mature trees when the Magna Carta was signed in England, and some were seedlings during the reign of Charlemagne. The beautiful and pristine Fairy Creek watershed is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Pacheedaht First Nation in my riding. For more than 150 years, they have watched as others decided what was best for their lands, water, and people. In June, the elected and hereditary chiefs of the Pacheedaht and neighboring Dididat and Hawaiiat First Nations came together to issue a declaration signaling their intent to take back control. Mr. Speaker, nothing about us without us is not just a slogan. It is a fundamental policy change we absolutely must respect. I urge the federal government to do everything it can to support the Indigenous-led stewardship plans of these nations.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. L'honorable député de Shefford.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, among those most severely impacted by the pandemic, we have seniors. It cannot be said often enough that their financial situation was already precarious before COVID-19. And yet, nothing for them in the throne speech. They've been forgotten. Total silence for those hard hit by inflation and price increases for everything. To add insult to injury, seniors who had to stop working because of the pandemic and received CERB are now seeing their guaranteed income supplement being clawed back. This is a significant loss to their budget and impoverishes them. This situation must be addressed. More than ever, poor seniors have to make difficult choices between food, healthcare, and housing. It is high time that we took into consideration those who built Quebec and Canada by increasing old age security by $110 per month starting at age 65. This government needs to come back on its illogical and unfair decision to create two classes of seniors. Let's act.
For Brantford Brant. Mr. Speaker, it is an honor and privilege to rise for the first time in this House today, having been elected by the good people of Brantford Brant. I have so many people to thank, more than I have time to mention today. First, I'd like to extend a special thanks to my wife, Angela, and my twin daughters, Jenny and Emma, and my parents, Larry and Mary Brock, for their love, encouragement, and ongoing support. I'm also truly grateful for my team and all the volunteers for their tireless efforts during my nomination and campaign. Finally, I offer my sincerest appreciation to the voters of Brantford, Brant County, Six Nations of the Grand River, and Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for placing their trust in me to serve them in Ottawa. I promise to stand up for the issues that matter most to them and be a strong voice for our community in Parliament. Our official opposition was elected to hold this government to account, and I am ready to take on this responsibility. I am honored to be part of a strong Conservative team, and together we will ensure that Canada's best days are still ahead.
The Honourable Member for Cloverdale, Langley City.
Mr. Speaker, my heart goes out to the families and communities affected by the extreme flooding last week in British Columbia. This 100-year flood brought catastrophic damage, laying bare the shortcomings in our current system. As climate change worsens, this will happen not every 100 years, but every 10 years or less. We need to invest in adaptation and mitigation against climate change so we're better prepared in the future. The inclusion of a national adaptation strategy in the speech from the throne is a significant step forward. And Mr. Speaker, it is with great sadness that I inform the House of the passing of Jan Rustad of Caledon, British Columbia. Jan was well known and considered by many to be the global expert on rotary wing advanced flying techniques. Jan trained many pilots from the Canadian Armed Forces, RCMP, and from many other countries. Known as skilled, patient, and humble, Jan Rustad will be missed by his family and several generations of helicopter pilots from around the world. Thank you, Jan, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, before we get into question period, I just want to say this is my first time in the chair with a question period. So please, get it out of yourselves. Get it out of yourselves. That's good. Get the energy out. That's good. Get the energy out. I just bear with us as we do it, and I just hope that we can have a great question period. Oral questions. Question orale. L'honorable.
The honourable member for Mégantic-l'Érable. And congratulations, Mr. Speaker, on your appointment. Mr. Speaker, we're currently facing an increase of COVID cases in Quebec and Canada. Many countries have started administering third doses to all adults. A new variant from Africa is generating enough concern that the WHO is holding an emergency meeting today. Israel and the UK have closed their borders to 6 countries. The Liberal government has a history of reacting too late when there are signs of a crisis. So what is the government's plan to protect Canadians and keep our economy open? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the situation with COVID-19 around the world continues to be volatile and unpredictable. The PCR tests required to enter into Canada are capable of detecting cases. And the WHO is holding an emergency meeting today to identify next steps. The minister will inform Canadians of next steps. The honourable member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Well, Mr. Speaker, Canadians are worried. We're concerned by that answer. Our economy has been devastated. Thousands of businesses have closed. Unemployment is through the roof. The Liberal government has been slow to warn Canadians, slow to close the borders, slow to provide vaccines. Now, there's still time to protect Canadians who are fed up with lockdowns. So what is the government's plan to prevent a 5th wave that would have disastrous consequences for Canadians' health and for our economy? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, our testing at the border is protecting Canadians' health. We know that the fight against COVID-19 is not over, and we're working with our partners across the world to protect Canadians. The situation is evolving rapidly, and we are working very closely with our international partners, as well as provinces and territories, to monitor this emerging variant. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Mr. Speaker, the lessons from the past should direct our action today, not in the future. In February, the government gave $53 million to the Public Health Agency of Canada to do research on variants. Today, there is absolutely no recommendation on this new variant on its public health website. The Minister of Health has been completely silent on the issue, while more and more voices are calling for action to prevent this new wave. The government's inaction has cost our economy hundreds of billions of dollars, and Canadians are still paying for it and will continue to pay for it for a long time. Can the government tell us today what is its plan to protect Canadians and our economy?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that question. Canadians know that our government from day one took decisive action at our border to protect Canadians. And we have put together different measures to protect Canadians. However, forgive me for not taking advice from the Conservative Party that they can't even ask their own MPs to get vaccinated, and they've been asking us to remove PCR testing from pre-departure. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kildonan, St. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians are learning disturbing news today concerning a new COVID variant out of southern Africa. Countries like Germany, the UK, India, Israel have already taken decisive action to close their borders to incoming flights and implement quarantine and testing requirements from those traveling from areas of concern. And yet this government hasn't even updated their travel advisory yet. We are wondering what is going on. What is the plan to keep Canadians safe? We have heard nothing this morning of reassurance for Canadians. We want to know what the plan is.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. President,
Mr. Speaker, the COVID-19 situation around the world continues to be volatile and unpredictable. We continue to monitor the situation very closely. We'll not hesitate to take action to protect Canadians. The PCR tests required to enter Canada are capable of detecting this variant, and there are currently no direct flights to Canada from South Africa. The WHO held an emergency meeting this morning, and you will hear more from the Minister of Health this afternoon.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, that answer is unacceptable. Countries like Germany, the UK, India didn't have to wait for direction from the World Health Organization to keep their citizens safe. We have seen a decision from this government before was Conservative members of opposition who called on this Liberal government to close the border back in January 2020 for the coronavirus, and they waited 3 whole months to do so, and by then COVID had spread across the country. Canadians don't want to see that mistake being made again. They don't want to go back into lockdown, Mr. Speaker. The mental health of the nation, the economy of the nation cannot handle that again. Canadians expect decisive action from this Liberal government. Is there a plan? What is the plan to keep Canadians safe from the African variant?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, there is a plan. Canadians have seen our plan over the last year and a half in doing everything to protect their health and safety. And I want to reassure Canadians, Mr. Speaker, there are currently no direct flights from South Africa to Canada. However, I want to ask my honourable colleague, where do they stand? Do they want to open the border, or do they want to close the border? Do they want to remove the PCR pre-departure test, or do they want to implement PCR? I'm not sure what they want, Mr. Speaker, but however, we'll take advice from our doctors and from our expert. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable ministre.
The honourable member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Environment Commissioner produced a scathing report about the government's environmental track record. What he found is that it's going to take much more than rhetoric to avoid climate catastrophe. And while the government brags about its outstanding work, the Commissioner was unequivocal. Canada is, and I quote, the country with the worst performance of all the G7 nations. The worst performance, Mr. Speaker, and that's only since the Liberals came to power. How can the government boast about their record when they're the worst in the world? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, we welcome the Environment Commissioner's report and want to recognize his work. This latest report does show a terrible scenario under the former Harper government. They didn't study the 2016 or the 2020 plan. They didn't study the many measures that we've put in place and the hundreds of millions of dollars that we've invested, which will help reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 by almost half. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Minister talked about Stephen Harper. Well, let's talk about that. The heart of the problem is that just like Stephen Harper before them, this government is trying to make people believe that subsidizing oil companies will make them less polluting and that they can keep producing more without any problem. But this is what the Commissioner said. Increased production would lead to increased emissions, which runs counter to Canada's commitment to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions. When will the government understand that the energy transition is not about moving from oil to more oil? It's about moving from oil to renewable energy sources. The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my colleague for her question. On the issue of oil subsidies, we agree. That's why our country has agreed to phase them out 2 years earlier than our G20 partners, so 2023 rather than 2025. We also announced in Glasgow that, like many other countries, we would stop the international subsidizing of oil.
Member for North Island, Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, seniors in Canada who receive the Guaranteed Income Supplement are some of the poorest in this country. Many work to subsidize their meager income. Like every other working Canadian, they asked for help during the pandemic. Now they are being punished. Seniors like David, 71 years old, $1,000 cut off his income. He cannot afford his food. He cannot afford his medication. How can the Minister of Seniors sleep at night knowing that these seniors are going hungry and are not getting their medication every day here?
Here. The Honourable Minister of Immigration. No?
No, thank you.
Mr. Online.
Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank to my honourable colleague for her question and for advocacy around seniors. From the very beginning, Mr. Speaker, our government has worked extremely hard.
Hold on a second. Let's just hold on a second. Hold on line. I'll let the minister restart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the honourable member for her question and for advocacy around seniors. Mr. Speaker, from the very beginning, our government has worked extremely hard to support those most vulnerable seniors, including strengthening their GIS. We know GIS adjustments have been hard on some seniors this year, and I can assure the honourable member that we're working on this issue to find the right solutions to support those affected, and we will be there for them.
The honourable member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and ministers, in a last-ditch effort, finally went to the United States to deal with Buy America's attack on Canadian auto workers. Instead of improving the situation, their results have the U.S. doubling down on softwood lumber duties that devastate our industries and steal our future jobs. For years, the Liberals have failed to protect families and their livelihoods, and now they're letting them take it on the chin from U.S. protectionism. When will this government wake up and truly support value-added industries, not just with talk, but with real plans to support our workers and their families?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of International Trade, Export Promotion and Small Business Economic Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the honourable member for his question. I also want to thank the honourable member and look forward to working with him as my honourable critic. In a relationship as large and as significant as the one that Canada has with the United States, of course, there are challenges, but we have worked together over many years to resolve many of these challenges, and we have been successful. We're going to do that again here, whether it is the electric vehicles, whether it is softwood lumber, whether it is our relationship in fighting the things that we have in common, like climate change, like finishing the fight against COVID-19. Let me be clear. We're always going to have the back of Canadian workers and businesses. We've always done it. Today's no different. We're always going to do it.
The honourable member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. While the government gave us a bland speech from the throne, my businesses in my riding and in Quebec are tearing their hair out. Why? Because they can't find anyone to fill thousands of vacant positions. No one. 200,000 jobs are available in the province. The Quebec government has announced $3.4 billion to fight the labour shortage. But in the throne speech in this place, there wasn't a word about the shortage. The government is dragging its feet on this issue. Why is it letting businesses down? The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Before I begin, let me say it's nice to see a fellow Blue-Noser in the chair today. I thank the honourable member for her question, but I would point out that Canada has now recovered more than 100% of the jobs lost during the pre-pandemic, peak of the pandemic rather, but we still suffer from the same labour shortage that's affecting competitive economies right across the world. In order to address the labour shortage, we have a number of facets to our plan, including investing in childcare so hundreds of thousands of Canadian parents can join the workforce, including boosting economic immigration levels so we can find workers to support Canadian businesses, including investing in skill training and including supporting businesses that are hardest hit by the pandemic. Mr. Speaker, all these measures have one thing in common: the Conservatives routinely voted against them.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, I'll have the government understand how serious the labour shortage is. Let me tell you about the company HoC in my riding in Saint-Justine. It makes manufacturing equipment and it does business in 40 countries. But it can't take this situation anymore because there are nearly 30 jobs it needs filled. That means its growth is limited, it needs to turn down contracts, and its employees are worn out. What would this government say to Cathy Roberge, who's the human resources manager at HoC? What would they say to her? The Honourable Minister.
Parce qu'on parle à propos des emplois.
When it comes to jobs, it's important to remember one of the great successes of our country. When COVID-19 hit Canada, we lost 3 million jobs. Today, Canada has recuperated all of those lost jobs during the pandemic. We have recovered 101% of jobs. And compared This is compared to the US, where they've only recovered 81% of jobs. We will continue to work very closely with the province of Quebec on this labor shortage issue. We will solve this issue with immigration and, of course, work on the labor shortage.
Calgary, Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, the Globe and Mail has reported that job vacancies have soared to unprecedented numbers, with more than 1 million unfilled positions. Vacancies jumped by 16.4% in September alone. When will the minister admit the government's plan for labor shortage just isn't working, take responsibility, and fix this problem?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, what the Conservatives seem unwilling to recognize is that there is a global phenomenon caused by interruptions to the supply chain due to the COVID-19 pandemic that have caused labor shortages in economies right across the world. Thankfully, as the Minister of Finance just shared in our other official language, more than 100% of the job losses from the peak of this pandemic have now been recovered. In order to help solve the supply of labor shortages that we're seeing in Canada, we intend to invest in immigration to bring more workers here. We intend to invest in childcare to open up the workforce to more parents, and we will invest in skills training, and I hope the Conservatives finally see the light of day and start supporting these essential measures.
L'honorable député de Calgary.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Midnapore.
The Globe and Mail indicated that a fifth of all vacancies were in hospitality, including restaurants and hotels. Despite a hectic tourist season in Alberta, restaurant owner Stéphane Provost had to close his restaurants for as many as 2 days a week this summer because there simply weren't enough workers. Why is this government always too little, too late when it comes to helping employers and Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, in Western Canada alone, more than $775 million went to our region under the Recovery Relief Fund. That helped more than 40,000 jobs in BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, and supported 9,000 businesses. Our government will always be there to support businesses in Western Canada, whether it's through these supports, through investments, through childcare, through immigration. We will be there for workers and for businesses, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, even though this government won't acknowledge it or try and solve it, we are in a labour crisis. Apple and cherry growers left fruit on their orchards this summer. We have restaurants that are reducing their hours. Construction companies are turning down business, and there are help wanted signs everywhere. This is occurring in my community of Kelowna Lake Country and also across the entire country. Does the government plan to stand with small businesses and small farming families and address this labor crisis, or will they continue to sit by and go forward without any kind of a plan that they can show us?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you for the question. We absolutely are focused on supporting Canadian small businesses and Canadian workers. It is worth reminding everyone in this House of the success of Canadian businesses and Canadian workers in recovering those 3 million jobs that were lost during the COVID recession. 101% recovered. That is great news for Canadians. And when it comes to supporting small businesses, I would just like to take this opportunity to urge all members of this House to support Bill C-2. Small businesses in BC, in Alberta, across the country need that support.
The Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, with the important holiday shopping season beginning, our small businesses were looking for more than empty words from the throne speech.
That's right.
When it comes to addressing a supply chain crisis, in Canada, this crisis started well before the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's further exacerbated now with the devastating floods and landslides in British Columbia. The lack of a plan is especially deafening. When will the Liberals finally address the supply chain delays that are hurting Canadian small businesses on the road to recovery and growth?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that was a bit of a kitchen sink question with lots of elements thrown in, but let me try to take them in turn. When it comes to the flooding in BC, we are there working with the province of British Columbia. The Prime Minister will be there today. When it comes to supply chain issues, we are monitoring that very, very closely. And let me point out, this is a global phenomenon. All Canadians appreciate that. Finally, on small businesses, one way we can all help them right now is vote for Bill C-2.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The increase in softwood lumber tariffs is serious for Canada, but it's especially bad for Quebec. The company that's been most attacked by the Americans is Résolu, which is in my region. And there's no reason for this, Mr. Speaker. The practices of the Quebec forestry industry are irreproachable. We set our stumpage fees at auction, just like the Americans, and we do this specifically to respond to their concerns. Does no one in Washington really know about this? How is it that no one at the federal level is standing up for Quebec to the Americans?
The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président, notre gouvernement.
Mr. Speaker, our government recognizes the importance of the forestry industry and the softwood lumber industry in particular for Quebec. We will continue to defend the resiliency and innovation of the Quebec forestry sector, which exports more than $10 million worth of forestry products and provides livelihoods to over 60,000 workers in the province. The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Mr. Speaker, the worst thing is that the Prime Minister met with President Biden just last week, and they supposedly discussed the softwood lumber issue. Not only did the Prime Minister fail to convince Biden to drop the tariffs, the President actually doubled them, targeting Quebec's forestry industry. In addition to threatening jobs in Quebec, this tax increase on lumber, at a time when demand is still very strong in North America, will further increase prices. We saw the consequences of this last year. So what will it take for the Prime Minister to finally stand up for Quebec? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government will always stand up for the forestry sector. We will always stand up for their workers. We have presented challenges before CUSMA, before the WTO, where it's been ruled that Canada is a fair trading partner. We absolutely denounce these tariffs. They are unfair, they are unjustified, they hurt workers and businesses on both sides of the borders. I've been speaking to Quebec industry and workers on this very matter, and I will continue to stand up for their interests.
The Honourable Member for Destiny, Mississippi, Churchill River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with the announcement of softwood lumber tariffs doubling, we see again how this government is failing Indigenous people. Norsask Forest Products, a 100% First Nations-owned company in my riding, has millions of dollars held in tariffs. The government's failure to negotiate a softwood lumber agreement is costing the 9 ownership nations the ability to invest in their communities. Mr. Speaker, I've been asking this question for 2 years, but I'm going to ask again. Can the minister tell the leaders of these nations when they will get their money back and when these punitive softwood lumber tariffs will finally end?
Good question.
L'Honorable Ministre, Commerce International.
Honourable Minister of International Trade.
I want to thank the Honourable Member for that question. I have been speaking to the industry, including the industry represented and advocated by the Indigenous softwood lumber members. The Conservatives can shout talking points all they like, but it is the Canadian softwood lumber industry, including the Indigenous softwood lumber industry, that will give me and this government the negotiating mandate on this issue. I will work closely with the industry, as I always have, and we will continue to pursue in their interests.
The Honourable Member for Kenora.
Last week, the Prime Minister visited Washington to meet with President Biden, and this week, the U.S. has announced plans to double tariffs on Canadian softwood lumber, threatening jobs in Northern Ontario and across the country. So it's either the Prime Minister doesn't care to stand up for Canadian workers, or he's incapable of delivering results. Mr. Speaker, the government has said that they have raised this issue with the U.S. administration. So why isn't the President taking them seriously?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, this issue is a priority for our government. It is why we're pursuing litigation under Chapter 10 of CUSMA.
I can't hear the answer, so if the minister could restart that. The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, this issue is important. It's why we're pursuing it under Chapter 10. But this is only possible because this government fought hard to keep the dispute settlement mechanism in the new trade agreement so that we can stand up for Canadians. I want to remind this House and Canadians that Conservatives urged the government to capitulate to Donald Trump and get a weaker deal. We did not. Our government will always stand up for Canadian workers and the softwood lumber industry.
The Honourable Member for Miramichi Grand Lake.
Mr. Speaker, over 22,000 New Brunswick jobs are going to feel the impact of this government's inability to stand up for them. There are thousands of jobs in Miramichi Grand Lake and across the country that are now at severe risk because of the weakness of our current Prime Minister. That's right. Printing more money, newsflash, will not fix this issue. What will the Liberal government do to protect these hard-working forestry jobs?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, to the forestry sector, industry, and to the workers, my message to you is that we will continue to stand up for your interests. We are interested in an outcome that is acceptable to the forestry industry and to their workers. We are going to work with the Canadian softwood lumber as we have always done. It is they who will give us the mandate to take to the United States on this very issue. I'm going to keep working closely with industry. Together, we're going to take a Team Canada approach, just as we have done all the way along, challenging on this issue and to continue to work on them.
The Honourable Member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen, Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, this minister just doesn't get it. My region and province has been suffering for years due to the inaction of this government on the softwood lumber dispute. Yet when the Prime Minister promised hope and met with President Biden, the American leaders said their relationship was easy and then jacked up the tariffs on Canadian wood. Why did the Prime Minister not get a deal on softwood lumber when he met with the President? Failure, Mr. Speaker, is not an option for the workers in my area. Why is it for this Prime Minister?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, I think Canadians will know who is defending them and who has always defended them. When we retaliated against the U.S. on unfair U.S. aluminum and steel tariffs, the current leader of the opposition urged us to stop fighting back. When we were negotiating for a better CUSMA deal, the Conservatives wanted Canada to capitulate to Donald Trump. Our government has a proven track record to negotiating outcomes for the benefit of Canadian businesses and Canadian workers, whether it is renegotiating NAFTA, getting a good deal on CPTPP, getting a good deal on CETA. We're going to continue doing this work for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Mr. Speaker, Indigenous communities across Canada continue to be at the forefront of the climate crisis. The ongoing flooding in BC has devastated First Nation communities who are waiting for help to clean up and a plan to face future climate events. This week, I asked the government to listen and work with Indigenous leaders like Chief Roxanne Harris from Staminas First Nations. Staminas First Nations and others have not received the support they need. When will this government follow through with their promises?
The Honourable Member of Indigenous Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my heart goes out to everyone who has suffered so tremendously through this flooding experience, including Indigenous people who are disproportionately impacted by not just this climate-related event, but many, many others. My team has been working very closely to coordinate services with the province of BC and indeed has announced funding from $4.4 million through the Emergency Management Assistance Program to the BC First Nations Emergency Services Society. This is built in the principle, Mr. Speaker, that Indigenous people know how to support their communities and will continue to work through that Indigenous-led lens. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, extreme weather is hitting both the East and West Coasts. The Environment Commissioner just released a scathing report on Canada's climate inaction. It said, "We can't continue to go from failure to failure. We need action and results, not just more targets and plans." The Liberals have the worst record in the G7. this Prime Minister claims to be a climate leader, so why is he continuing to give billions of dollars to big oil and gas? Why is he dragging his feet on fighting the climate crisis and supporting workers?
L'honorable ministre de l'Environnement et Changement climatique.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for her question. In fact, I challenge anyone in this House to show me a country that has done more in the last 4 years to fight climate change that Canada has done. Record level investment in public transit, Mr. Speaker. Record level investment in electrification.
Let's just hold on a second. You can restart.
Record level investment in electrification of transportation, in nature-based solutions, in adaptation to climate change. $4 billion, Mr. Speaker. But the fight is not over. We have lots more to do, and that's what we will be doing. Thank you very much.
The honourable member for Toronto Danforth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On November 28th, 4 years ago, people from my community and from across our country gathered here to witness our government's apology to the LGBTQ2 community, acknowledging Canada's role in systemic oppression, criminalization, and violence against lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and two-spirit people. There is so much more to be done. Can the Minister of Women and Gender Equality and Youth share with us what we are doing to support LGBTQ2 communities across Canada?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the Honourable Member from Toronto Danforth for her incredible work and advocacy and for highlighting this important date. The discrimination that fuels homophobia, biphobia, transphobia must be eliminated, and the work starts right here in this House. That is why our government introduced the LGBTQ2 Secretariat in 2017, invested $7.1 million in budget 2021 to support its work, and $15 million for a new LGBTQ2 projects fund. We will continue the work for the LGBTQ2 communities to create a Canada where everyone can live their authentic and true lives. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Liberal government wasted millions of dollars during the fight against COVID, but it could still recover millions of dollars of that money. For example, $100 million that was given to the friend of the Prime Minister, Frank Baylis, or $80 million that were given to another Liberal, a friend of the Liberals, the owners of Tango Marketing. These are two contracts that were awarded without a competitive process. And in the case of Tango, the government didn't even get something in return. Taxpayer money doesn't grow in trees. Is the Prime Minister going to recover this money? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to congratulate my colleague on his election. Mr. Speaker, if my colleague recalls, he will remember that 30 days after the WHO declared that we are in a pandemic, we invested $1 billion to support various sectors, including medical manufacturing in Canada. And that supported Medicago in Quebec City, Novavax in Montreal, Moderna, which moved to Canada. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to protect Canadians' health and safety. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon University.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The new Minister of the Environment has refused to signal his support for the Canadian nuclear energy industry. And he said it is not up to the government to decide what sources of energy will be used. But before he said that, Mr. Speaker, he said something different. He said it's time to close the Pickering nuclear power plant. There's 3,000 families that rely on those paychecks at that plant alone. There's good jobs across Canada. Will the minister step forward today and support and announce his support of the nuclear industry and the good jobs that come with nuclear?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As someone who grew up in Saskatoon and in the honourable member's riding, I certainly understand the importance of the nuclear industry in this country. Certainly, Cameco and other organizations in Saskatchewan are important drivers of economic opportunity for Saskatchewan families. Nuclear is an important part of the electricity grid in this country. This government has invested in the development of small modular reactors. We look forward to seeing those things demonstrated and ultimately commercialized. We look forward to moving forward with non-emitting technologies to ensure that we are fighting climate change, but doing so in a manner that promotes economic progress.
The Honourable Member for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley.
Mr. Speaker, now that inflation has taken hold and is the second highest in the G7, and because of this government's unbridled spending, Canadians are suffering with rising prices for basic necessities. Does the Prime Minister still maintain, at a time when Canadians need a Prime Minister who actually cares, that he does not think about monetary policy?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
So, Mr. Speaker, let me start by reminding all members of this House and Canadians that inflation is a global phenomenon right now. It was 4.7% in Canada in October. In the U.S., 6.2%. In Mexico, also 6.2%. In New Zealand, a country very similar to our own, 4.9%. And let me point out that the G20 average is 4.6%, and that's the OECD average as well.
The Honourable Member for Brantford Brant.
Speaker, the Globe and Mail is reporting that the biggest price surge in 2 decades is set to deliver a revenue bounce worth billions of dollars to this government's coffers. Well, while the Prime Minister's cup runneth over, skyrocketing food prices are hurting Canadian families. Food, gas, home heating are all getting more expensive. The Prime Minister's high tax, high spending agenda cannot be the status quo. Why is he dragging his heels on getting this country's finances under control right here, right now?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to something as serious as the nation's finances, it's important to separate partisan posturing from the facts. We just heard the posturing. Now for the facts. A key fact is that this fall, the world's 2 leading ratings agencies, Moody's and S&P, both reaffirmed Canada's AAA credit rating. That is an endorsement of our government's prudent economic stewardship, and Canadians should take pride in this collective accomplishment.
L'Honourable Député de Avignon, La Métis, Matane.
The Honourable Member for Avignon, La Métis, Matane, Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, the Mayor of Montreal met with the Prime Minister this morning, and once again, she asked him to strengthen the borders in order to fight arms trafficking. And that's not the first time that Valérie Plante asked the Prime Minister to close the borders. Last time was to prevent COVID from entering Quebec. And in the end, she had to send City of Montreal workers to the airports to do the job that the federal government should have been doing. I hope that this time, when it comes to fighting weapons trafficking, the federal government will do the job that it should be doing.
Monsieur le Président.
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, I would like to assure my colleague that we will be working hard to combat weapons trafficking. To fight smuggling, we have invested more than $350 million. Thanks to that funding, we have added more than 90 service members. On one hand, the Bloc Québécois wants action, but on the other hand, it doesn't support federal investment at the borders. How can my colleague explain that? Thank you. The Honourable Member for Avignon, La Métis, Matane, Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, we need to do much more, and we need to do it now. Fighting weapons smuggling at the border is one of the most important responsibilities of the federal government. Illegal weapons were used in the various tragedies that have occurred in Montreal. They are not allowed, they're illegal, and yet they are there in our neighborhoods. Montreal and Quebec are doing everything they can, but if the federal government doesn't play its role, weapons will continue to circulate in our neighborhood streets. Will this government finally commit to doing everything it can at the border? The Honourable Minister. Yes, absolutely, Mr. Speaker. We are always ready to work together with the Bloc and all members in this House to work together with the government of Quebec to do everything that we can do to put an end to firearms violence. That is this government's commitment, and we will deliver on it.
Member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, we were
slow to close our borders when COVID-19 emerged. Our allies did it in January 2020. We waited until March. The World Health Organization has called an emergency meeting today to discuss the South African new variant, but the Government of Canada's own travel advisory doesn't even mention it. No mention of additional caution, screening, or any new restrictions at all. When the world acts, Canada watches and waits. When will this government finally act to protect the health and safety of Canadians and focus on our economy?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate my colleague on her appointment as the transport critic, and I look forward to working with her on these and other files that are of concern to Canadians. Let me reassure Canadians, Mr. Speaker, first, that we are on top of this. We have acted from day one. Canadians know that we will never stop taking any measures to protect their health and safety, including testing, including vaccination mandate, including pre-departure testing. So I ask my colleague to work with us on supporting our vaccination mandate, on supporting our pre-arrival test, and making sure that we protect the health and safety of all Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Stormont Dundas South Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, after years of delay, Canadian Blood Services has finally announced their commitment to end the discriminatory blood ban. It is a step in the right direction, yes, but questions remain. Health Canada still needs to approve their submission. The government was told back in June that this submission would be coming. If the Liberals care about ending this discrimination with the urgency it deserves, what date can gay men finally donate blood in this country?
The Honourable Minister.
This government has always known that this was a discriminatory practice, and it was up to the scientists and the Canadian Blood Services to take this decision. We're very grateful for them for the proposal, and we look forward to giving an answer in due course.
The Honourable Member for Stormont Dundas South Glengarry.
I'm sorry, but that was absolutely shameful in that answer. You've always known it's discrimination. You've known for 6 months that this submission will be coming, and you can't give a date, you can't outline what that process is, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, people are watching and waiting. Leadership is about backing up your words with action. Talk and talk and talk. The solution is there, the medical community is behind it. Stop talking and deliver results. What date will the government say gay men can finally donate blood in this country?
I just want to remind the members to ask the questions to the chair and not to refer to another member as a you. So the Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, and as someone who has advocated for this for a very long time but understands that we have to wait for science and for the people who, in an arm's length agency, it is up to the agency to actually ask us to do this. We are looking at this proposal, and we hope to be able to respond as quickly as possible.
The Honourable Member for Pontiac.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians can be proud that Canada was so active during COP26 in Glasgow. Canadian climate policy is recognized on the international stage. Our measures are seen as being fair and progressive. Can the Minister for the Environment and Climate Change tell us more about what Canada is doing to fight climate change? The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for Pontiac, and I'd also like to congratulate her on her impressive career in the OECD prior to being in this place. Our government has done a great deal regarding fighting climate change. I could say a great deal about what we did in Glasgow. $5.3 billion to help developing countries, including $1 billion to help the poorest countries reduce their dependence on coal, as well as a great deal of funding for nature-based solutions. However, like elsewhere in the world, there still remains a great deal to do regarding fighting climate change. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Lennox and Addington.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's aging population has been the hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic in almost every conceivable metric. Instead of providing the compassion, empathy, and support that the seniors who built this country deserve, the Liberal government has sadly penalized Canadian seniors who took CERB by lowering the old age security payments.
Shameful.
Please tell me, when will this government rectify this cruel decision and allow our seniors to collect what they have earned and give them the dignity that they deserve?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government is aware, and I think all members of this House would agree, that our seniors have been disproportionately hit by COVID and that they deserve our support. That is one reason that the government supported seniors with $500 over the summer. It is a reason that we have increased the OAS. When it comes to the GIS and the CERB, we are very aware of this problem, and we are working very, very urgently to get it fixed. I do also want to say we can all help our seniors by getting vaccinated and urging them to get their boosters. My dad had his recently, and it has been a real relief to me.
The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Mr. Speaker, as the first Acadian to assume your role on behalf of all Nova Scotians, let me congratulate you. Hey. Recently, a Nova Scotia Indigenous fishing captain was lost at sea, leaving his crew, uncertified crew, stranded. The winter lobster season opens this Monday in southwest Nova Scotia. DFO officials confirmed that newly licensed moderate livelihood fishers are not required to have their vessels or crew government trained and certified, like all other commercial fishermen have to. Why is this government callously placing the lives of Indigenous fishers at risk?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries, Oceans and the Canadian Coast Guard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to congratulate the member opposite for his new appointment. And I want to say that I have compassion and regret any time someone is challenged with as a mariner with problems at sea, and the Canadian Coast Guard works very closely with the communities to be there for Canadians and mariners. With respect to the moderate livelihood fishery, I want to say that everything we do at the Department of Fisheries and Oceans is underpinned by the conservation of stocks. This is a priority that is...
We'll have to work on the time. The Honourable Member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
Mr. Speaker, our economic crisis has created a mental health and suicide crisis. During the election, I knocked on one man's door, and he showed me what he was eating for dinner: cat food. This isn't an exaggeration, Mr. Speaker. Food bank users are at an all-time high. Canadians need to know a timeline. When will the government take the right action to support parents, children, and seniors so they aren't eating cat food?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, one of the things that our government is moving forward on is affordable childcare across the country. This is something that is so important to address affordability for families right across the country. As a parent, I know the high costs of childcare are limiting for so many people, and we will continue to work hard to make sure childcare is affordable so that families have access to additional resources so that they can provide for their children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Sherbrooke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Having childcare spots helps women to build their career. Being able to access affordable and inclusive childcare makes life more affordable and helps create new jobs. Many agreements have already been signed. Can the Minister for Families give us an update on the implementation of our commitment? The Honourable Minister. I'd like to thank my colleague for Sherbrooke. I will be very pleased to give an update to the House today. So far, we have signed 9 agreements with the provinces and territories in order to reduce costs for childcare. That will help 60% of children in this country. It's wonderful. It will help women to go back to work. It will help our economy, and it will help all of Canada.
The honourable member for Nunavut.
Mr. Speaker, our elders from Nunavut are being exiled, removed from their families, from their homeland, and from their communities because they cannot access care in the territory. Our elders' care homes in Nunavut have been at full capacity since 2017. We have seen in this House countless recommendations and promises made, but we've seen little to no action to help elders and invest in elders' infrastructure in Nunavut. Will the Prime Minister respect elders in Nunavut and the Indigenous and Northern Affairs Committee and follow through on accelerating construction on long-term care facilities and seniors' homes in Nunavut? Thank you.
For the question, and I sincerely look forward to working together with the member to solve these many concerns that were brought up. I'm proud that I am the first ever Minister of Northern Affairs to give the attention to the infrastructure, the housing, the healthcare, the seniors, all of a gamut of issues that our government is engaged in and committed to work with the honourable member to solve these problems into the future. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. That was enjoyable. Thank you. I recognize the Honourable Whip for the official opposition.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. On a point of order. Now, I'm not sure if it was to send and receive instructions from the PMO that he was passing along to the Government House Leader, but the member for Winnipeg North, sitting beside the Government House Leader today during question period, was seen with an earbud in and speaking actively into a telephone throughout question period. I think you should remind him that that is not something that is allowed or permitted in this House, and I certainly would hope that he isn't receiving instructions from the PMO on who should be answering and how they should be answering questions or what he was doing.
The Government House Leader.
Whip for his concern. This has been discussed as we are in a virtual proceeding. There will be instances where folks are at distance and therefore we need to be able to communicate to them. The Speaker's office was aware of this. The House Leader for the opposition was aware of this as well. So we're happy to have discussions. It was our understanding in our conversations with the opposition that this was something that they were not only aware of but understood was necessary as part of a virtual proceeding, Mr. Speaker.
Good answer.
Not necessary at all.
The Honourable Member for Joliette. I would like to express the Bloc's concern about what just happened. This is a rule, no telephones in the House, but now since it's virtual, it should be allowed? Well, Mr. Speaker, I would like for you to come back to us after having considered this point. Rules were just changed. Are we going to be listening to our constituents talk to us by phone in the House? This is very concerning. There are other ways to communicate. Thank you, Speaker.
And you're also the Honourable Member on this point of order from North Island Powell River.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I just want to join my voice with the Conservative whip on this issue. You know, this is a sacred place. During the time of a pandemic, I absolutely understand that we must make sure that we're safe and that the people who work here are safe. But to disrespect this place that has a long history is absolutely inappropriate, and I hope to never see that happen again in this House. Thank you.
Here, here.
Shame on you, Mark, for even trying that.
Oh, sorry, the honourable member for Winnipeg North.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I can truly say that I had no intentions on offending anyone or any rule. In the last hybrid, in order to facilitate ministers that were on the virtual, I was afforded the opportunity to be able to do exactly what it is that I did earlier today. No offense was made, and I did get the opportunity to at least share what I was going to be doing with the opposition House Leader, as I didn't want to surprise, and my apologies for not extending the same courtesy to the NDP and the Bloc. But it's no different than what we did during the hybrid last summer.
Encore sur ça.
On the same again, the honourable member for Saint Jean. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Regarding what I just heard from my colleague, he gave himself the opportunity to do such a thing. But as far as I remember, that was never discussed by the whips or anyone else, and there was no motion for it. So I'm curious to know where that information comes from. Thank you.
Elmwood Transcona. Here also from the member for Elmswood Transcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member for Winnipeg North has been doing this before. It was doing this in the last Parliament. All the more is the shame. I wasn't aware that members were taking phone calls in the House of Commons. Completely unacceptable, Mr. Speaker, particularly when, if it does have to do with organizing the Liberal caucus, they can take those phone calls in the lobby, they can pass notes into the chamber, they can take the call in the lobby and then come into the House and speak to people in the House. There are many ways that the Liberals can use to organize themselves. If they find it too difficult, that's on them, Mr. Speaker. But beginning a tradition of taking phone calls in the House of Commons is an absolutely unacceptable way of managing their own problems.
Also here from the Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And let me reiterate with what my colleague said from Winnipeg North. The no offense was meant to the House. This had been a practice. We will end it. I've heard loud and clear from the House today that they do not feel that this is appropriate. I apologize. My understanding was that there had been this had been a matter that had been decided and that we were okay to operate on that basis. But it is important to me that this place function. It is essential to me that this place function well. I've heard members. It will not happen again. I appreciate their feedback. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Leeds, Granville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Well, thanks very much, Speaker. I would just note, with respect to other matters that have been brought before the Speaker during this session, that there was a lot of discussion with respect to practices and items and debate from the previous session. The member from Winnipeg North said that past practices and discussions from the previous Parliament should be part of this consideration, and I'm just looking to see if the Chair can also advise this House on if that includes the points of privilege and the points of order that have been raised by the official opposition. Thank you very much.
Any other interventions? All right. We'll, of course, take this under advisement. I would urge the House leaders and the whips to actually get together and discuss this one through. If there needs to be a decision to be made, the Speaker, of course, will come back to this House with that decision. Thank you. Tabling of documents. I have the honour to lay upon the table the annual reports on the access to information and the privacy acts of the Commissioner of Lobbying for the year of 2020 to 2021. Conformément
Pursuant to Standing Order 1083H, these reports are deemed permanently referred to the Standing Committee on Access to Information, Privacy, and Ethics.
And then just go to. Do we have another point of order? Okay. Point of order for Elmswood Transcona.
That the member for Winnipeg North doesn't have the floor but isn't wearing his mask, Mr. Speaker, and I think it's important that we all follow that rule.
We'll remind the rules that if you're not speaking, you don't get to